Well, good afternoon, friends. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing today? I hope you're having a wonderful day. And weather is quite nice over here where I am in Sherwood Park, Alberta. And welcome to another episode of Conversations with Dune and Friends. And today we have a wonderful guest joining us again, all the way from the Ontario area. I'll tell you more about our guest in just a moment here. But for those of you who are watching, if you can hear me loud and clear, it'd be great if you could chime in and confirm. And if you have any trouble hearing us, let us know as well. And I would invite you to participate with comments along the way for the entire hour and a bit here that we're going to be chatting with our guests. So with that, let me get right into the introduction here and tell you a little bit more about our guest. Now, Gair, can you still hear me in the green room there, my friend? Wonderful. All right. Now I heard some feedback there. All right, wonderful. So let's get rolling here. I'm going to do a quick introduction of our guest here. So it's Gair Maxwell. Gair Maxwell is joining us all the way from Ontario area. So he's a frequent flying keynote speaker, author, brand strategist. His original market-tested ideas have inspired some companies to grow 15 to 20 times while creating irresistible category of one. He has inspired some of the world's best, including Apple Specialist Marketing Group, Caterpillar, and many others. He shared speaking stages with icons such as Richard Branson and Gene Simmons, and named the Speaker of the Year by Tech Canada, the country's largest CEO organization. Now, his first book, called Nuts, Bolts, and a Few Loose Screws, is available through Amazon.com. He is also associate faculty at the world-famous Wizard Academy out of Austin, Texas, a 21st century business school specializing in the study and science of communication arts. His next book is entitled Big Little Legends: How Everyday Leaders Build Irresistible Brands. And we will experience a preview of that book today and much more. So please, friends, help me in welcoming our guest today, Mr. Gair Maxwell. Ooh, yeah, there's a big kind of applause there, as if you were.
Yeah,
there you
applauding.
go.
People are applauding. I'm certain all over the internet. We just can't hear them today, Dune. But like you said earlier, if people can hop on and watch and ask questions along the way, like I really, and just thank you so much for the invitation to be here, Dune. But also, I have no idea where he's going to take me and what we're going to talk about. I do got one little thing to introduce everyone to, just in case, Dune. This is a kind of a just in case thing.
Yeah.
And just I'm one of those that gets described as like the face of the organization, but there's other people behind the scenes who do very valuable work. But there's three key individuals behind the scenes that I want the entire Facebook audience to know about today. And let's start with Theodore. Theodore is our director of security. Sophie is our director of inspiration. And the newest addition to the team is Maggie. She's our Beagle Mix Rescue, and she is director of Black Ops. So as you can probably appreciate, and I'm sure everyone's experienced this through the pandemic, there are times when delivery people show up at your door from Amazon or whatever, and well, if you hear anything, Dune, now you know these three, are just doing what they're paid to do. They're just doing their job if they start to make a racket.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hey, Gary, if you could turn up your gain on the mic a little bit, that would be great. Just give yourself another 15, 20% volume on that mic. That'd be fantastic. So wonderful. Thank you for starting us off with that. And let me tell you, friends, Gair comes to you with a host of he probably underplayed it in the introduction a little bit, but you have a long history of broadcasting and radio, and tell us a bit more of an expanded background, my friend. What got you here today? You've done a lot of different things. Maybe give us a bit of a inside story, a little bit.
The short story is I was a 20-year broadcast journalist, so I grew up in newsrooms, radio, television operations. So, for instance, out where you are, Dune, in Edmonton, I remember very well being not too far from you in Red Deer, Alberta. I read the news, and a guy named Ron McLean was playing the records on 850 CKRD, Central Alberta's news voice. So, I had a spell at CFCN in Calgary, went back to my hometown in Moncton, New Brunswick. So about a 20-year career, and along the way covered many murder trials, city council meetings, political rallies, did over 1,000 games of play-by-play in the American Hockey League with affiliates of the Oilers, the Winnipeg Jets, and the 1989 Stanley Cup champions, the Calgary Flames. And so the real short story, aside from the bio, is this. That 20-year career was terminated in one instant. I got a 2-sentence letter on company letterhead that basically said the gig's over. So in the dog-eat-dog world of broadcasting, the axe fell. It was May 21st, 1999. I just come off the air, CFQM, read the news, weather, and sports, and there's the 2-sentence letter. And it's a whirlwind. It's surreal. You're in the bad movie. And so long story short again is I wound up in a heartbeat, broke, busted, on the unemployment line. And it's the double hit. It's loss of income, but it's also loss of identity. And the reason I share that story with you, Dune, is, and for anyone watching today, is very, very simple. It's that I learned a profound lesson about embracing the wisdom of uncertainty. And that's really what my story's about. It's, everyone's got their rock bottom story. From where I sit, the rock bottom story, I don't think anyone cares much about what happened. It's always, well, what happens next? Really, that's what it's all about. So for me, I embraced this wisdom of uncertainty, not really knowing it in that context, but a tiny crack opened and I fell by accident into a world called soft skills business training. I didn't know the first thing about business. I didn't know how to do an invoice, for example. I was greener than that grass behind me. And what happened was I realized through the world of business, I was finding and identifying with new heroes. Small to medium-sized business owners basically became my new heroes. It wasn't politicians, celebrities, athletes, newsmakers. It was the men and women in this country and now, in the U.S. who have all the responsibility on their shoulders, who have to make big decisions, who have to think about the livelihoods of their employees and how their business navigates all the turbulent, choppy waters, especially in a global pandemic like COVID. So when you think about the person who starts a business, whether it's today, 20 years ago, 40 years ago, the dynamics don't change. They've got all the responsibility. Oh, and by the way, dude, they're also going to get criticized and second guessed every step of the way and get no recognition. Is that basically it?
Other than that, it's an easy road.
Yeah, other than that, when they're not lining their pockets, no, they take all the risk. They have all the responsibility. And like I say, they also get all the criticism and things of that nature. So really, I really found myself identifying doing with those kinds of people and a few lucky breaks here and there and a little bit of hard work. Boom. The rest, as they say, is history. So, and it leads us to, and I'll just show you the picture. It's led us to this point where I'm a history nerd. This is the part that's probably not in the bio. but like I'm a history nerd, and so I've always been fascinated by the icons of history. It doesn't matter whether it's, you know, uh, Lincoln or think Roosevelt, Martin Luther King. I'm a big military history buff.
Hmm.
Been to the beaches of Normandy twice. I would go back 22 more times. So
Yeah.
uh, it was one of those things a few years back where it was a natural evolution into the study of the origin of legends, what makes them enduringly irresistible. That's and it basically summarizes the work that I do now.
Wonderful. Well, on that note, let's share with our viewers the first video clip here. It's titled Big Little Legends. I'm going to cue it in just a moment here. But
Yeah.
while that's playing, if you could figure a way to give us about 20% more volume on your voice, on your microphone gain, that would be awesome. But I'm going to bring the video in here, my friend.
Yeah,
and
just before you do, Dude, can I tee it up just a little bit?
You bet.
Yeah, I just want people to get a sense of Big Little Legends represents a bigger idea, and the idea is this: that this applies to any small to medium-sized organization, any small to mid-sized business, company, or otherwise ordinary person. And what we're trying to figure out and really present is how do they magnetically attract legions of fans and followers by representing an idea that's bigger than themselves. And in that context, what happens, they earn enormous amounts of public acclaim, recognition, and profitability while serving a greater purpose. So I think that helps Dune set it up, and we'll try and fix that microphone issue.
You bet. Wonderful. So I'll bring it in here, my friend. Let's
What is a legend? What does it really mean to be legendary? By definition, it means remarkable enough to be famous or very well known. But legends are much more than fictional or historical characters. We see them each and every day. For centuries, legendary people, places, teams, events, brands have held a distinct place in our hearts. But do they still matter in a wired world that increasingly celebrates overnight success? Well, it depends. For some, the race is all about instant gratification, one-hit wonders, here today, gone tomorrow. But then there are the others who seek something more permanent and meaningful, those who want to make their mark, create a modern legacy that reflects their sweat equity. Men and women on a mission to play the long game and build a generational business and brand that endures and stays relevant in this age of disruption. This is the story of Big Little Legends. These are the ones that defy all odds, push every boundary, bust all stereotypes, and spark uncommon magnetic attention and attraction. They're the ones who inspire us to become fascinated by and drawn towards. What is it that creates this magical, irresistible attraction? And how do you find it and plug into it? Through the course of history, small but mighty giants have exerted this invisible, yet very real, intangible energy that becomes too attractive, too tempting to be resisted. These legends demonstrate that you don't need to be a massive company with a colossal marketing budget to make a serious impact in the world today. Big Little Legends. It's how everyday people build brands that are simply irresistible.
Very cool. Very cool. Tell us more about the work that you do as it relates to brand building there, my friend.
Well, the signature story goes back to it. You can see some of the you would have seen in that video, Dune, just a kind of a teaser, if you will, okay, of something that was quite profound in the evolution of our work and how it all transpired. But if you wrap your head around this idea that larger than life brands don't necessarily all have to do with, like, what do we think of when we think of great brands? We think of Apple, we think of Disney, we think of Amazon, we think of Nike, we think of Harley Davidson. Well, in my experience, Dune, the average business owner, the small to medium-sized business owner, they can't relate to those kinds of individuals or those kinds of companies. They can't, because they don't have the resources, they don't have the budgets, they don't have the access to the expertise. So it's a bit of a convoluted way to answer your question, but what is it that the legends all possess, and how can anyone do it from anywhere? Because if history is a great teacher, I believe history always repeats itself. And the more we learn from history, the farther back we can look, the further ahead we can see. So historically, what do we know? We know that people like Terry Fox, weren't especially gifted in the true athletic sense, but his efforts did become, quote unquote, legendary. The same is true for Rosa Parks. December 1st, 1955, she refuses to give up her seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. The actions of 156,000 Allied soldiers storming the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. This is not the domain for the privileged or the few. This is an idea that's bigger than any product or service. And I love telling the D-Day story from the history junkie perspective, in the sense that was a highly risky operation, and in the end, all of the responsibility fell on the shoulders of one guy, General Dwight D. Eisenhower. Do they go or do they stay? Because the weather had turned very nasty in the English Channel. There were a lot of complications, and in the end, Eisenhower, and this is what I tell people all the time, dude.
Yeah.
And this is what we're seeing right now. Like, what we're seeing right now in the COVID world is this: leaders have to make difficult decisions with incomplete information. And the information and all the data that we seek has never been more incomplete. So a few years ago, that's what I did. In terms of the work that I do, I study, who are the best brands in the world, right? Who's in regardless of category. Like Dune, for example, if you were considering joining a motorcycle gang, what would be the top of mind right away? It's all
Harley Davidson.
Well, I'm talking about a motorcycle gang, not a bike. If you joined a bike gang right away, Dune, people who know you're thinking Hell's Angels all the way. Right, in the category called bike gangs, Hell's Angels wins.
Yeah.
Every single category, in my experience, Dune, has someone who's at the top of the mountain. Okay?
Yeah.
And so Big Little Legends is challenging that and saying, well, wait a second. How do you metaphorically become the Apple, the Ferrari, the Nike, the Harley Davidson of your specific product service category, which led us to this whole idea of studying the Big Little Legends, like the Café Du Monde in the heart of the French Quarter in New Orleans. They're like that place is packed 24/7, 364. Now, they had the bump during COVID, but they're recovering very, very well. But Café Du Monde is a coffee shop that is unlike any other you've ever seen, because of the swarms of customers there. Like, we're talking night and day and night, and that's a $47 million a year business. Then we look at Pike Place Fish Market out in Seattle in the Pacific Northwest. They're selling a commodity called fish that's in a place that's cold, wet, and smelly. And what do you got? You've got thousands, and we're talking literally thousands of people showing up every week just to watch a bunch of guys throw some fish, take pictures, and participate in all their shenanigans. And that's a $10 million operation. The profit margin per square foot is off the charts in retail North America. Then you come here to Northern Ontario.
Yeah.
If you were in Ontario, Dune, you'll find out that 9 out of 10 Ontarians can point to one business that has the never-ending lineup of customers, which is Weber's on Highway 11. It's about 5 miles north of Orillia, and it's the same dynamic, which is, people are constantly getting the photo ops and taking the selfies and, in effect, doing the marketing for them. So in our work, if there's 2 central questions, well, what sparks the lineup and what sustains the lineup? And we've identified in the research for the forthcoming book, there's big little legends everywhere you look. So Dollar Shave Club would be a big little legend in the online commerce world in terms of how they totally upended the apple cart with respect to, challenging the Goliaths like Gillette and Procter & Gamble. Barb Stegeman, 7 Virtues perfume, is challenging the beauty industry. Green Bay Packers would be the big little legend of the NFL, because how does a city of 103,000 people compete with Dallas, Philadelphia, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco? And in Western Canada, Dune, you've got the city of Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Moose Jaw in the conversation? Well, it dates back to something that erupted in 2019. I don't know if you heard this story about the international crisis, the Moose War precipitated between 2 otherwise peaceful nations, Canada and Norway, the online debate over who had the world's biggest moose statue, and that story wound up, on the Colbert report. That was a 4-minute story on Colbert. It got global media coverage, every outlet you can name. The Washington Post, the New York Times. The mayor, Fraser, told me, was on BBC Global News in front of 90 million viewers. And what's being promoted constantly? Moose Jaw, Canada's most notorious city. And the end result of Moose Jaw, when they changed their brand to become Notorious, which of course leads to being notoriously friendly, fabulous, innovative, all those things, they wound up winning the Economic Developers Association of Canada National Award for Best Municipal Marketing, over $7 million worth of free publicity. Tourism spiked more than 30% in 2019 alone. And to quote MasterCard, the boost to civic pride is just priceless. So I can neither confirm nor deny, Dune, that we were invited a while back to go to the city of Moose Jaw and maybe spend some time with 23 or 24 citizens in a series of workshops and boot camps. But that's another story for another day, but maybe your viewers can put all the pieces together.
Yeah. So here's the thing. This Moose Jaw.
Yeah.
I hear a bit of an echo, so maybe your speakers is back on again. But exciting stuff happens in Moose Jaw as well, folks. And here we have a bit of a moose story that went, very kind of marketing case study, if you will. And I noticed words like notorious. They didn't use the words like very or boring words like, but they used words that resonated with people. So I think language is part of that, hey?
Well, that's a great question, Dune. And the truth is, that's if you dive deep into the work we do, what we're always trying to do is figure out and I love the Moose Jaw story because it's an example of how this concept of big little legends is in fact universal. Mm-hmm. So what do I mean by that? Well, it doesn't matter whether you're selling a product, a service. It doesn't matter whether it's a nonprofit organization. It doesn't matter whether you're B2B or B2C. I like Moose Jaw because, well, that's a municipality. But the same holds true. Every municipality across North America tends to, quote unquote, brand themselves the same way like everybody else. You study all the economic development literature. You You look at all the different websites, and what do you see? I'll share with you, Dune. Every town is friendly, inviting, a great place to live, work, and play.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically it. And so if differentiation matters, then what you said is true. The words actually matter.
Uh-huh.
The secret is finding the words that support your story, who you already are.
Yeah.
That's the real secret. Well, who's Moose Jaw? Beyond the municipal services that how many towns in Western Canada, Dune, would have offer the same low tax rates, friendly neighborhoods, clean drinking water? Don't they all get the same curb and gutter programs?
Okanagan.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of what we're looking at in terms of. So they invited us in because what did they want to do? They wanted to make the city more attractive to outside investors. They really wanted to boost tourism. You know, there were concerns that the economy's stagnating a little bit here. What can we do to jumpstart things?
Mm-hmm.
And so recreating Moose Jaw around the brand being notorious does it creates distinction, but also it supports this idea that, well, how long can we tell that story?
Right.
My guess is we can go to infinity and beyond. How long, Dune, has Nike told a story that revolves around 3 words? What are those 3 words?
Just do it.
Right. So if Nike does it around 3 words, what's the equivalent for you? So for anyone watching, it's okay, great. You've got 2 to 6 words that you can use to anchor your place in the market to create differentiation. You got 2 to 6. That's it. And so what we get invited to do is to help companies figure that out. But you can't just pull words off a shelf. It's not like going to the drive-through. You know, you can't go to the marketing drive-through and say, "Oh, I'd like to order, one of those and one of those and one of those," and throw in some billboards and maybe some SEO and maybe some fancy logos and graphics. For too long, Dune, people have been going to the marketing drive-through and they've been getting indigestion.
Yeah.
You got to figure out who you actually are beyond the product or service. And so in the case of Moose Jaw, it was a great story. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but legend has it that was the place in the 1920s during the Prohibition era where Al Capone and some other gangsters from Chicago used to go hang out and hide. Apparently, when the heat got a little too hot and heavy in the Windy City, they all took off to Moose Jaw because it was the last stop on the train line. And when you go to Moose Jaw, you'll see there's a network of tunnels that connect the train station to the downtown. What I'm telling you, Dune, and I don't know if your biker gang days are ahead of you or not, but if you needed a place to hide in the 1920s during Prohibition, there was no better place in the world than Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. So that's who they already were. And the funny thing is, when we did our research and our on-site discovery, for years, for decades, the townsfolk tried to bury that story. You know, they didn't want any, it was like the ugly skeleton coming out of the closet. Well, what they've done is they've embraced their shall we say, sordid and sketchy past. But that's what's setting the course for the future.
You bet. Now, my closest connection to any sort of biker gang is that I still have my Class 6 license because I've had motorcycles in my young days, but that was only because I couldn't afford cars.
Okay.
2 wheels were cheaper than 4 wheels, let's just say. So I would love to play the next clip here. It's the Why Build Reputational Equity. Tell us a bit about that before I roll the clip here, my friend.
Yeah, that's a great question, and this is very relevant because the work that we do, Dune, is we're trying to find that sweet spot between that which is timeless in terms of stories of legends and mythology that will never go away. So where's the sweet spot between that which is timeless and that which is timely, which is new technology to share stories and basically promote your brand and get the word out and build a reputation. So what are we? We're late August. So about 5 weeks ago, it was mid-July-ish, I was in Kelowna, British Columbia. I was working with Tech Canada. They are the country's largest CEO peer advisory group. So this is a very closed circle, a tight-knit group of entrepreneurs, senior executives, CEOs. And they invite folks like me in to give them some insights into competitive advantage. And so Big Little Legends is a program that I present to the Tech Canada community, and as well as in the States with Vistage International. But in that week, there was one session. And someone watching right now might be struggling with this. But in that one session, I could see there were a number of members struggling to kind of put it in their own head. What's he really talking about? And then one other member just basically stood up and shouted it out. He says, guys, attention equals currency. I'm going to repeat that, dude. Attention equals currency. How did we get attention in the 20th century? Well, we ran TV ads or radio spots, or hey, we took out ads in the yellow pages. If you weren't in the yellow pages, they couldn't find you. Or we ran stuff in the newspaper or industry trade publications. Has anyone noticed how so many things are incredibly shrinking from the 20th century? So this piece that you're going to show on the subject of reputational equity talks about how you have to do it now, especially in COVID, especially if you're in a B2B environment and you can't see people face to face like you used to.
Yeah. Let's bring it in and let's have a listen and watch here, folks.
Sitting on the dock of the bay in the heart of the Okanagan Valley, Kelowna, British Columbia, pondering issues such as reputational equity. How much of it is your brand building through the course of this pandemic? On this segment of Leaders and Legends. What a magnificent opportunity it's been this week. Here on the shores of Lake Okanagan, Kelowna, British Columbia, had a chance to speak with 3 CEO peer advisory groups from Tech Canada. And thanks to Sean Eldred and David McLean, these were the first live in-person sessions since the pandemic hit back in the middle of March. So what a chance to get together again with business leaders who are concerned about how are their companies, how are their organizations going to not just survive but thrive in whatever the new normal is going to be. And something that came up this week here in Kelowna I thought was very relevant to anyone watching, and it's this issue called reputational equity. How much value do you really place on the reputation of your brand? Anyone can answer this question. How much value do you place on your brand reputation? So however you respond, scale of 1 to 10, well then where's the digital proof? Where's the digital footprint, the evidence that you truly do have a deep-seated conviction that reputation means everything? See, what's happening, more and more people are shopping online. They're making buying decisions online. It's great that we're back out here in person and doing live events, but the fact remains a lot of business, especially B2B business, is being transacted online. No buyer, no shopper ever calls you back and announces, hey, I went with one of your competitors because of what I saw, whether it was on their website or a blog post or a video. You see, no one will ever tell you exactly what's going on, which means this issue of reputational equity, it's a perfect opportunity for you to do an assessment, an audit, if you will, of your brand in terms of its digital footprint. And one of the points that came up that was so strikingly clear in one of the peer advisory groups on Thursday was when one of the members, in explaining to a fellow member, why is all this important? Why? Attention is the new currency. We're in the attention economy. Attention is currency. Simply put, the more attention you gain in the online world, the more sales you make. The more attention you get, the more currency you acquire, and the most valuable currency, the most powerful currency right now is relevancy. So, going forward, what's stopping you from doing your own independent audit of all of your digital assets, from your website to LinkedIn profiles, your Facebook page, your YouTube channel? YouTube is the second most powerful search engine on planet Earth, second most, and yet more than 90% of companies, especially in the B2B sector, don't even have a YouTube channel, and if they do, the last post, the last video was a year, 2, 3 years ago. So as you do your own audit, start to really ask the tough questions. How involved and active are we on all of the relevant digital platforms? Number 2, how relevant is our message? How much does it stand out? Do we have a message and a brand story that is truly different from everybody else? Are we running the risk of having our brand story and message swimming in a red ocean of white noise? Or are we sailing towards blue, clear water? These are some of the things that this pandemic now presents for leaders everywhere in terms of determining how much they want to be serious about building their own reputational equity in the place that really counts now, in the online space. Always enjoy your feedback on these posts, and if you find great value, please share, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and thanks again for joining us here at Leaders and Legends, where you never know who you're going to meet or what you'll discover.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, and we're always hoping, Dune, that that it drives home the point that if you're not active in the digital space, that you're basically invisible now.
Yeah.
Like that's just the reality. So, and the greatest power of the digital space, and what are we doing? We're doing it right now with it's video.
Yeah.
Video is king in terms of content.
Yeah. Wonderful.
I'm saying podcasts are great. Hey, I host a podcast. Right? There's a lot of things. Written blogs. I still love to do written blogs, but a consistent video strategy is, in our view, still it's not going away in terms of its significance and how you can create enormous differentiation for your brand.
Yeah, yeah. In many ways, we're living in scary time, and in many ways, we're living in exciting times. So, how do you see that, my friend? That mix between scary and exciting?
I think it's exciting all the way. I think champions are being crowned right now. I honestly do. This is what's happening. It's the cream's rising to the top. Those who, and how overused back in March and April did the words unprecedented and pivot become? My point is that through the course of this global pandemic, this thing we've never seen before, history shows us there have been disruptive events in world history. And some companies and individuals reacted very, very well, and some did not. The one thing we do know, Dune, and you don't have to be a history professor to know this, after World War I or World War II or the U.S. Civil War, or keep going all the way back, or one you're familiar with in Vietnam, did things go back the way they were ever?
No.
Nope. And so many people through, the COVID crisis of March and then into April and into May, and maybe even some are struggling now. They want to go back to the way it was. It's not. No, more shopping malls are going to close. More commercial real estate is going to be vacant. More airlines are going to struggle and go bankrupt. There's no denying that. More people are going to migrate out of cities and go to smaller houses because they don't have to be in a city to work at a job and be close to their employer because they can work from home now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just so many things. So, yeah, I think, as you can see and just gather from my tone and my expression, I think this is the time. Champions are being crowned. We've got some incredible stories from a lot of our clients that are doing extremely well because they had set themselves up for success, at least in terms of their marketing, before the pandemic hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Right.
It's good to be prepared ahead of time. And if you can't be prepared ahead of time, be prepared, in time and just in time, and even just be prepared a bit late. But to never be prepared because we're stuck on some concept of what should be, is very going to be painful, right?
Yeah, and that's Dune. You just nailed it. There's a substantial portion of the population that wants things the way they should be. Well, the very definition of should that's irrelevant. It's not about the way things should be. No, it's the way things are going to be, the way the things are now. So, I don't know how many viewers are familiar with the Stockdale paradox. Is plan for the worst, hope for the best.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the way out, the way forward. I mean, I'm certain, Dune, you would have gone through that because I know just the little bits and pieces of your story. But if I'm not mistaken, were you not smack dab, you and your family smack dab in the middle of great upheaval in Vietnam?
Yes, it was a very different time, and during
I'm curious,
war-torn Vietnam. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the story? Like, where were you guys? Where did you grow up, and how did you come to North America?
Well, I was born and raised in what was called Saigon, Vietnam, which is now Ho Chi Minh City. But in Saigon, as you know, was the south of Vietnam. And in 1975, there was a change of government there. And with all of the kind of war-torn kind of effects, as well as the new government taking place and doing what they thought was necessary to keep the control and all of that stuff, we ended up, my two brothers and I ended up putting our lives on the line and escape, literally, might not live to see tomorrow. And that's how we ended up in 2 refugee camps and then Canada. Now, so that's the idea of...
But Dune, you would have been how old?
I was 13 years old.
And your two brothers were how old?
Just a few years older. So 13, and I'm going to say, so add 8 years to that, 13, 21, and 25, let's say.
So right away, we see 2 refugee camps in the imagination, and then we see people hundreds of people on boats.
Yeah, you bet.
Is that what you went through?
In a very small boat, packed like sardines, and knowing that, whether it's pirates, whether it's, all kinds of different folks who would want to sink our ship, right? And
right.
Our boat, a little boat. So definitely life and death journey.
Yeah, and so, but my point is, you lived through it personally. What people are living through now, socially and culturally, in terms of great upheaval.
Yeah.
When the rug is taken out from under you, and now you gotta to be kind, no pun intended, but now it's sink or swim.
Yeah.
Right? It's sink or swim. You went through it. Other people have gone through it. This, to me, is what COVID-19 is presenting to us, Dune, is that these are sink and swim times, and just the way history, thousands of years of history, has, revealed itself is that there are those who will drown and perish, and those who will live to fight another day, like you and your brothers did.
Yeah, I think you have to live in the moment and not live in the past. And we all know that. We all know that. But the past can be very good for learning lessons from. The past can be very good for grounding you. But the past is very bad for you if you live in it and make decisions solely based on it, when your future is much more different, right? So if you have a forest fire, well, the trees and the grass and nature grow based on the present day. It doesn't wish for a forest full of, canopy trees and whatnot. It just grows based on the present situation, and that is bare land, and that's what you got. And it grows, and before too long, the forest comes back, maybe even stronger than what it was before. But it has to operate within the current reality, right?
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing as well in this part of the country. This is the current reality. We're doing a lot more business, for instance, on Zoom than we ever did before. And I've got a post coming out soon. I in all my conversations and talks with business leaders across North America, I identified 3 things that seem to be sticking with us in terms of what's not going to change. I always look at if you're a forward-thinking leader in times of great disruption, I always want to know, what's not going to change? So one thing we know is this: humans are always going to be fascinated by legends. We knew that before the pandemic, right? Legends, stories, mythology, humans are okay. But since the pandemic, here's what we've identified, and I can put it under the umbrella. So I like to speak in metaphor, Dune, but if you put it all under the metaphorical umbrella of digital fluency, there's 3 things that any business, any corporation, any small company, personal brand, 3 things that relate to digital fluency. Number 1 is delivery/fulfillment. Are you still able to deliver on whatever product or service you provide? Can you still get it to the customer's door? However, whatever it is you're selling. If you've noticed, and I'm sure you have, Amazon is doing okay.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos doesn't need your bailout money. Jeff Bezos doesn't need any CERB things. No, he's doing okay, because Amazon would be a great picture of what does delivery and fulfillment look like. Right. So a lot of restaurants early, as you're probably noticing in Edmonton, they couldn't they couldn't have people inside. So what they do? Well, delivery and fulfillment became outdoor cafes all of a sudden, spilling out all over the sidewalk, or it became, skip the dishes, right? Or DoorDash or Uber Eats. They had to find a way to, deliver and fulfill in terms of their product service offerings. So delivery, fulfillment, number 1. Number 2 is internal operations. So if your internal operations are not digitally fluent, you're going to run into you're not going to survive. I think of, how many companies still to this day run on paper? So for example, hen scratch notes, sticky notes, the Penske file. I look at all those doctors' offices of all those file folders gathering dust, and I just think there is no way you're going to be able to deliver and fulfill if your internal systems are not digitally fluent, speaking to each other.
Right.
That's just not going to happen. And so why is Amazon kicking serious butt still? Right? Why is Apple still killing it? Because their delivery and fulfillment, as well as their internal operations, are all very digitally fluent. And then number 3, marketing. If your marketing is not digitally fluent and you're still relying on having a sales executive crisscross the country, knocking on doors and delivering, in-person pitches, especially in a B2B situation. How many times, Dune, were we in airports where we saw armies of well-dressed sales executives and business people going from city to city, coast to coast, and what are they all trying to do? Knock on doors and get inside. Well, what happens if you can't travel anymore? Then what do you do? Whatever it is you're selling, how do you get people to connect with you when face-to-face is not an option? So digital fluency, as it relates to your marketing, has now become, in our view, critical to survival. Not just success, but your very survival now depends on it.
There you go. So COVID is just kind of accelerating what was probably on its way anyway. It just accelerated significantly, right?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question. I've had so many people come to me within our community. Dune, as you know, we're in the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers.
Yes.
And I can't remember if you were there or not in Halifax.
I was, yeah. I was in your session. I was in your session.
December of 2015. Okay, I couldn't. There was about 100 people in the room.
Yeah.
And I've had so many people come up to me or talk to me just this year, referencing that, is that, wow, that session in 2015, you basically told everyone this is where it's all going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in 2015, you could pay attention or not, but you could still eke out a living.
Yeah.
2020, now the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
Now it is, to use your phrase, it is sink or swim.
And by the way, I did see my boat sink right after getting onto a rescue boat. Our boat sank. So yeah, tell us about this video that I want to share. It's called 10,000 Roundabouts Dan. Give us a bit of a backgrounder on that.
Well, actually, before we do that one, can we talk about this guy?
Absolutely. We can do anything you want, my friend. Absolutely.
No, okay. Here's why. Because it follows the train of thought. In terms of digital fluency with your marketing, I want to show folks how someone's doing this and been doing this. So pre-pandemic, they were on this. They were following this strategy. Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason I wanted to show this to folks is because the category that they're in is not what you would call a sexy category, dude.
Uh-huh.
So Bob Lennon runs a company called Thermal Wood Canada. They're way out there on the east coast of Canada, they're in northern New Brunswick. Okay. And what do they sell? They sell thermally modified wood. Well, think about it, Dune. That's a pretty niche product, and it's not a consumer product that they sell. This is thermally modified wood for manufacturers. So this is a pure B2B environment. They, are out there with basically no marketing budget to speak of. But in their space, they're, very much part of a global industry. And so, for instance, they could be attracting customers, for all we know, from Iceland to Uruguay and everywhere in between. Okay. Mm-hmm. So how would you even know these guys? How would you connect with them? Well, if you did a Google search, and it just followed the logic here, dude, if you were in the market for thermally modified wood and someone said, well, hey, check out Thermal Wood Canada, one of the first places you would go is Google, and you would go to their website. And what do you see right on the home page? I think you can see the visual, but right on the home page, and this is part of the strategy we teach, is you want the movie trailer, not the corporate video. This is so important for me to say this. It's not a corporate video. It's like a movie trailer. It's like the signature. It's the flagship of the franchise. And it tells their story. So on that note, Thermal Wood Canada is all about northern heat. Okay, their 2 to 6 words is northern heat, bringing the heat, making a difference. So, dude, let's just roll northern heat and see what these guys are all about.
You bet. There's a video here, and let me just. Is this to the underestimated?
That's the one, to the underestimated. Yeah.
Wonderful. Let me bring it in here.
Okay.
Being from New Brunswick, Canada, we tend to see the world differently. We sit next to the Atlantic Ocean with the highest tides on the planet. Hundreds of spectacular beaches, no shortage of picturesque mountains, valleys, and forests that cover thousands of square kilometers. And yet, we are constantly overlooked. Some call us the forgotten part of Canada. out of touch with the rest of the country. Being routinely dismissed or ignored might make some people feel inadequate. But you won't find that here. Not in our house, not where we live. The gift is being underestimated. It's being able to light that fire underneath. To push beyond what's accepted and expected, and to seize the opportunity when they don't see it coming. Because while everybody else is counting us out, we're too busy making a name for ourselves. We are no longer just a local wood manufacturer. Some of the biggest brands in the music industry know us by name for creating a high-quality, environmentally friendly product cherished by the artists that also care about the same things. And we're pushing our community forward every single day, showing them that you can live anywhere, you can do anything if you put your mind to it. Our story are for those that are courageous and determined enough to turn on their own heat, while at the same time they're working twice as hard to be acknowledged. Our story is to show that you can make this world a better place to live, no matter where you're from. From where we live, it's a good thing to be repeatedly underestimated, because we've already proven that being an underdog is the best advantage that we can have. Turn on the heat in northern New Brunswick, we are Thermalwood Canada.
Fantastic. Yeah. Can you still hear me, my friend?
I can still hear you, and I'm hoping my sound is coming in okay. But I did want to show you this. Now the numbers are too small for anyone to see, Dune. But here's an illustration of what happened in the month after that video got released by Thermalwood Canada. So there's the vast majority of B2B players, as we know, Dune, are not visually present. They don't have a digital footprint. They're not leveraging video the way it can be used. And here's Thermalwood Canada in the first month got 18,000 views, but also 104 shares. That is pure, in my view, that is pure marketing gold, because who else would love it if someone shared their video 100 times over for free? And to me, that's the whole purpose of what we do, Dune, is how do we create a situation where the customer winds up doing the marketing? And I think Thermalwood Canada is a great illustration where it doesn't matter how otherwise niche or quote unquote boring or unsexy or B2B your category is. Anyone can do this once they understand there's a bigger story to tell.
Yeah, very interesting and exciting indeed. Fantastic. We could see that 18K views. That is definitely big enough on the screen here for us to see. So that's great.
Oh, good.
Yeah, wonderful.
104 shares.
Yeah. So tell us, my friend, in all the work that you do you have a story that's sort of highlight of your either of your career or highlight of your work with your client that you might like to share? That's beyond what you've shared already. Is there one that comes to mind?
Yeah, the signature story, and I deliberately did not put the pictures in today or anything like that, but the signature story that's inspired all of our clients that I still travel the world on has to do back in 2002. If you think back to the day, well, I got let go, I got fired from my broadcasting gig, and I got fired up over the world of small business. Well, in 2002, I met a guy, Dune, who had 5 employees and maybe a part-timer. He was doing about $1.5 million a year, give or take. Okay, his product service interchangeable, so there wasn't any difference between what he was selling and everybody else in the market was selling. And him and his wife had been doing this since 1979. And I ran into him at the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce, and together Jim and I embrace the wisdom of uncertainty. That's more than anything, Dune. That's what we did. And he asked, "Hey, can you do something? Can we work together to grow our little company?" Okay, but wait. Here's the caveat. Here's the kicker, Dune. Jim's company operates in the worst business category on planet Earth when it comes to public perception and reputation. He's a used car dealer. So what are the images right away? For anyone watching, what do you think? First thing you think about when you think about a used car dealer? And all kinds of words like greasy, oily, scammy. They're not very appealing. Herb Tarlick in cheap suits comes to mind. And so, but Jim and Donna weren't like that. The problem was, for years, they had been painted with that brush. So this story really is about, maybe some people watching this feel that way too. Hey, I get painted with the same brush as everybody else. Okay, and so long story short, Jim and I met in 2002. It wasn't until September of 2006. We didn't change the product. We didn't change the pricing. We didn't put on any new promotions. What we did do is we changed the story. And he became Canada's huggable car dealer. And when he became Canada's huggable car dealer, that unleashed just a tidal wave of opportunities. We started with some radio ads that never talked about the product. I can still recall those radio ads. What was it? He's the Casanova of customer focus. He's the Romeo of roadsters. He's the McDreamy of drive. And stop by at Jim Gilbert's and get your daily dose of Hugtonium, designed to improve your love affair with your car and your libido. Like, no one in the market was running ads like that. What do they all talk about in the car business? Better quality, better selection, better service, better value, better prices. 0.9% financing in all makes and models. And this month only, employee pricing. No one cares about that stuff. So in Jim Gilbert's case, 22 other car dealerships were all talking the same language. Better quality, better selection, better value. We started telling something else. Fundamentally, the story of the huggable car dealer represents this, dude. If everybody zigs, you zag. Think about it that way. Everybody zigs, you zag. And today, and you have to imagine this a little bit, Jim Gilbert's is like a latter-day Walt Disney. He's got hundreds of teddy bears, mascots, merry-go-rounds. There's a nature trail there to go walk your dog. And on the surface, and I've got one right here, on the surface, what does the teddy bear have to do with a car? Nothing. But it's got everything to do with the brand values of caring, kindness, family, and originality. It's got everything to do with being an identifiable symbol that creates great separation and distinction, but also communicates in a way that human beings actually relate to. So the punchline from a case study point of view, as of 2019, Canada's huggable car dealer employed 38 people and did north of $50 million. So next month is the 14th anniversary of Canada's huggable car dealer, and he too has been extremely successful despite COVID. They added power sports, for instance, to their product mix, and as of right now, dude, they are the #1 Kawasaki dealer in all of Canada, and they only jumped into that category midway through 2018. So, as you can probably appreciate, we've harvested a ton of timeless principles and lessons from the huggable car dealer that translate into folks like Thermalwood Canada, or wouldn't matter what the company, or the city of Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, or any of the other clients that we're honored to work with.
Hey, while you were talking, I think I found a clip here that's just a few seconds. Let me know if you want me to roll this clip here. Does this ring a bell at all, this little video clip here?
Not at all, but I'm guessing that's probably from Jim Gilbert, isn't it?
Yeah. Let me role play, and
Yeah,
if it's a wrong one, just let me know so I can stop it. But it's just a few seconds here, right? And
yeah, you get the idea. It's kids and pets are always welcome at Jim Gilbert's Wheels and Deals. Right. So, in fact, you know what I'll do, Dune, is I will send you a link,
yeah,
or I'll post the link. Sorry, in our Facebook thread
yeah,
that outlines the definition of Big Little Legends, and people will be able to see like other examples, and almost get a preview of what they're going to see when the book is released.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Again, people relationships connect deeply based on emotions and not logic, right? Emotions. So the stories really resonate with people and really connect at the emotional level, and that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, and I'll show you maybe a couple more, but Klinger's Group is an engineering firm out of Cincinnati. And when we got invited to work with them, because we work by invitation and referral only, but that's an engineering firm of about 120 employees. Head office is in Cincinnati. They got some other offices out there in Ohio. Well, how many engineering firms do you think there would be in that tri-state area of Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana? Is it 500? Is it 1,000?
Oh, I would say 1,000 or more.
Whatever the number is, it's a big number. So what's the question? The question is, well, why would we do business with these guys as opposed to everyone else? So long story short, when we did the discovery and we put senior executive teams through a program we call the Branding Highway Boot Camp, okay? We use the highway metaphor because it's both journey and destination. We use the boot camp because, hey, this is hard work. But with these guys, what we discovered, they were kind of quirky in a fun-loving way, but not off the wall, but kind of like the characters from that TV show Cheers. So Klinger's Group became good at math, surprisingly human.
Yeah.
So how many stories, Dune, can we tell? See, this is the question. Since 1988, Nike has told an endless amount of stories that all end with the punchline, what?
Just do it.
How many stories have we told that end with 4 magic words? Canada's huggable cardio. How many stories can Bob Lennon out in northern New Brunswick tell? Northern heat. Right? Okay. How many can we do around good at math, surprisingly human? Stories, by their very nature, have a beginning, middle, and end. From a brand building perspective, we always want to start with the end in mind, like Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
But know that whatever we publish is building equity, consistency, and longevity. So one of the things that makes me most proud about this one is they invited me back to do a big reveal in front of it was an annual company meeting. They had over 100 people there, this big hotel ballroom type thing. And we also created a mechanism where employees who had great story ideas could work with the marketing team to get their stories out there and get them published. Okay? So it was, how people talk, Dune, about team engagement. They want aligned teams and engaged teams. Well, at Klinger's Group, once they knew they were good at math, surprisingly human, it unleashed a flood of ideas. And that's the one I'd love it if you could show it. Yeah. It's the roundabout engineer who explains how to drive in a roundabout while driving in a roundabout.
Absolutely. Let me bring it up here, my friend, and we will definitely show that. Okay, here we go. Bringing it on. Let me see here. I'm going to.
So, where do you want to go to lunch? Actually, down the street down there, this is pretty good.
There's this new tchotchkes, man. Yeah, tchotchkes. We'll do tchotchkes.
All right.
I've been dying to drive that way.
I have heard pretty mixed reviews of tchotchkes.
Yeah, you know, it's not really about the food. It's really about the drive. Wait till you see.
Alrighty.
Okay, here we go. Check it out. Modern roundabouts. You know, Dan, modern roundabouts reduce severe crashes by over 80% over traditional intersections.
Are we supposed to get off at one of these here?
Yeah, we're gonna get there. You know, the thing I love about roundabouts is it's not just how efficient they are, they even help reduce emissions. By not having to stop and only having a yield, you're not just sitting at a stoplight waiting for a green.
I'm confused. Are we going to get off and
people
go
get
to lunch?
Confused all the time, Dan. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. And people are sometimes resistant to change, but as there's all kinds of great driver education out there by places like Federal Highway Administration and ODOT, that they start to warm up to them, and with experience comes comfort. ODOT even has their own dedicated YouTube page for driver education. It's amazing.
Please tell me this is only one of these.
Oh no, there's a whole bunch of them. You know, there's over 10,000 in the United States now. Everybody seems to be getting on board because I think townships and cities have all seen that how efficient they are, how they reduce injuries, not just for motorists, but for pedestrians as well, even cyclists. You know, Carmel, Indiana even has over 100 of these just in their town alone.
Just tell me we're going to lunch soon, please.
We'll get there. You know, we've only got about 4 more roundabouts to go through, and then we'll be there. You okay there, Dan? Is everything okay?
Can I just jump out right here real quick?
Jump out? Why would you want to jump out? We're in the roundabout.
I think I'm going to lose my breakfast before lunch.
Okay, we can stop just for a minute. I know you want to get a good look at the roundabout. Dan? 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 He's really excited. For 10,000 of them now, Dan.
Now we can. You get the idea, Dune. Those guys, Kleinger's group, are having, as you can just imagine, ridiculous fun doing this themselves, inspiring each other, and since they've been doing it for just close to a year, what's happening, of course, is this gradual recognition of, hey, you're not like every other engineering firm. Hey, you guys look like a fun place to go work at.
Yep.
These are the kinds of things that are starting to happen as people, and of course, what are people doing? They see their videos, whether it's on Facebook or on LinkedIn or, on all the different social media platforms. And again, the customer is doing the marketing on their behalf.
Yeah. Well, wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing that. Tell me, I'm going to ask a different question before we perhaps show some more video clips here. Maybe one more clip coming. But when you work with all of these folks, how long of a journey is it typical? Is there a typical journey for the work that you do with these organizations?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, and it actually dovetails nicely with this next story I want to share with you, because it's an Alberta story. I thought doing it would be, since you're in Edmonton, why don't we close with an Alberta story? And so the typical process, just to figure out, if you're asking the question, which I think you are, is, well, how do we figure out who we are beyond the products and services? How do we figure out our brand identity? Not logo, not visual, none of that. No. Actually, like, who are we? Right? In other words, the classic Simon Sinek, start with why. Why are we doing what we do, and who are we beyond the product? Okay? And so that's about we call it a 60-day immersion program. So we have some pre-session exercises before we work with an executive team, and then there's some meetings that happen on the back end, and the hole in the donut is either the live or virtual boot camp. When we do it virtually, which we continue to do successfully through COVID, we break it up into 3 2.5 to 3 hour Zoom sessions. Otherwise, sometimes we'll do live in-person 1 or 2 day boot camps in the client city type thing. And that 60-day immersion program gets us to this finish line, which sets them up for what's coming next in terms of the ongoing publishing and storytelling that is what creates that consistency and that longevity and that recognition. That's who those guys are, as opposed to everyone else. So I'm hoping that answers your question.
You bet. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so for example, I'll show you this one. The Alberta example is down the road in Calgary. Charles Glen Toyota. And when you look at the market, well, Charles Glen Toyota, how many new car dealers would there be in Calgary? And that number is about 120. Mm-hmm. So it's a very competitive space. And here's the thing about the new car business is all the cars, Dune, they're all good, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all good. They've all got great warranty programs. They've all got friendly service bays. And okay, they're all good. There's not that much difference. This is where I quote my friend Jim Gilbert, the Huggable car dealer, years ago. One of the principles we teach, it's not about the 4 wheels and the piece of tin. Everybody knows the 4 wheels and the piece of tin is good. So when we did the boot camp with Charles Glen Toyota, long story short, they became Alberta's celebration destination.
Mm.
And we have a secret formula for arriving at these things and a process we follow. It's very process driven. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not cookie cutter, but it is a process, and there's a formula involved and steps to follow to figure out, well, who are they? And we landed on Alberta's celebration destination. So we did the boot camp with those guys back in April of 2018 as the Calgary Flames were getting eliminated by Colorado in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Boot camp was in April. They started launching in June. So they are just over doing a year in to the new story of Alberta's celebration destination. Now, what are the things they celebrate? They do every day. Every day, if you go on Facebook, there's always something new that Tim Beach and Ashley and Ryan and Ty and everyone at Charles Glen is celebrating. It could be Jerry Seinfeld's birthday. It could be the 50th anniversary of man landing on the moon. It could be the Beatles rooftop concert on Abbey Road.
Yeah.
Right? There's always something to celebrate. And what they do is they also have the cakes and the cupcakes to acknowledge the celebration.
Yeah.
And so I know you've got a clip, but this will give people an idea of some of the kinds of things that Charles Glen is doing to further their storytelling around Alberta's celebration destination and not talking about the 4 wheels and the piece of tin.
Right. Cool. Want me to roll the clip?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's bring it back in here.
In the year 2000, I celebrated things like Napster, Y2K New Year's, and Britney Spears doing it again. But in March of 2000, a man named Joe showed up and reminded us all to celebrate what it means to be a Canadian. He wasn't a lumberjack or a fur trader, and he believed that it was pronounced Zed. Not Z, Zed.
My name is Cal.
My name is Kate.
My name is Alex.
My name is Holly.
I'm Kyle.
Oh, looks like we didn't have sound there. Is that right?
Oh, I could hear the sound.
Let me just confirm here, my friend.
Yeah, I could hear it.
Yeah, let me just do it again, just in case.
In the year 2000, I celebrated things like Napster, Y2K New Year's, and Britney Spears doing it again. But in March of 2000, a man named Joe showed up and reminded us all to celebrate what it means to be a Canadian. He wasn't a lumberjack or a fur trader, and he believed that it was pronounced Zed. Not Z, Zed.
My name is Cal.
My name is Kate.
My name is Alex.
My name is Holly.
I'm Kyle.
My name is Mike.
I am Jonathan.
My name is Ashley.
I'm from the USA. I was born in Malaysia.
My family's from Palestine.
I was born in Germany.
I am from Russia.
I'm Canadian.
I am Canadian. I am Canadian.
And I am Canadian. I am Canadian.
And I'm Canadian.
I am Canadian.
Today we celebrate all the multi-cultures of Canada at Charles Glen Toyota. My name is Tim. I am Canadian.
Is the beaver still a proud and noble animal?
In the year 2000.
Very cool. Very cool.
And Dune, as you can appreciate, when you start putting the cupcakes and all these different things to it and create that environment internally, and you're posting Facebook Live videos to support this story every day, what do you think is happening to Charles Glen Toyota's market share? Yeah, they, without disclosing any numbers, which I'm not privileged to do in a public forum like this, but the numbers have been steadily increasing as a result. And so it's, more than anything, Big Little Legends, what we've been talking about today is really, it's more than a program. No, it's a philosophy. It's a way of building a brand for the long term. It's a way for leaders to create, just like we say, it's how does...
Oh, Gair, I think you have disconnected there from, so hopefully you'll be able to come right back, Gair, and we can close it out together here, my friend. Let's just, I'm going to take our viewers to the website here, and let's maybe take a quick look at what Gair Maxwell has out there for our public people who are out there on the web, and check out his website. It's gairmaxwell.com, of course, and let's take a quick look here. So lots of videos, of course, because that's one of the things that Gair believes is the power of video. So you're going to find a lot of videos on there, and you're going to find blogs and the programs that he runs and all that kind of stuff. As I speak here, I see Gair is back in the green room, and hopefully you can hear me in the green room there, Gair. I see you. Your background is showing, so that's good. Yeah, so hopefully you can hear me, and you are back on, my friend. You were just out for a few seconds. Yeah, no worries.
Not used to that, so we just had to fire a few buttons. So hopefully, doing in this conversation today, which I so appreciate you extending the invitation, people have seen some ideas about how you can actually create something larger than life that transcends your product service category, but also is very relevant using all of these wonderful new platforms like the one we're on today. Like, I'm still amazed, dude, that you were able to, you remind me of those 70s rock keyboardists from bands like Yes. Do you remember the keyboard guys? They had the keyboards there, and the stacks of them over there, and right, like Pink Floyd did that, and Deep Purple. I see all that technology, and look at that. I mean, we had a live conversation, and we were able to include some of these videos. So that's fantastic.
Wonderful. Now, before we wrap up, my friend, let me ask you, perhaps back to the theme that we sort of been talking about, and that is the idea of, in challenging time, as much as we're all negatively impacted in some ways, large or small, by the COVID phenomenon here, and the ongoing kind of changes that it is applying to our society and to our world. You had mentioned the idea of really recreating yourself. In fact, one of your blogs is called Reinvention. Tell us a little bit about that, Reinvention. You did a lot of work there. Care to comment on that?
And my experience with Reinvention, Dune, was, and I even was seriously thinking about writing a book around the subject, because I realized that's what I had experienced. When I was transitioned out of broadcasting, basically out onto the street, metaphorically, I realized I had lived through a great professional and personal reinvention, because so much of, especially for men, so much of our identity tends to get wrapped up in our careers. So I became fascinated by the subject of reinvention. And so I think those principles still hold true. So it doesn't matter whether it's an individual or it's someone like, Kodak, Sears, or Blockbuster. And I can summarize it in one line. It's the ability, capacity, and willingness to stay relevant in rapidly changing times.
Right.
So when you look at the three I just mentioned, Sears, Kodak, Blockbuster, okay, they all had the ability. They all had the capacity. They had tons of MBAs and high salaried executives, and right? They had access to all the world's experts. What's the one thing they lacked? The willingness to remain relevant in rapidly changing times. Dan and I were just watching last week, wonderful documentary. I think it's on Prime. Netflix versus the world. So you can watch that and you can say, hey, you can transpose and picture, well, how does that apply to the world I'm in? To me, the greatest movie about reinvention ever made was Moneyball. The story of the Oakland Athletics and general manager Billy Beane, who upset the apple cart, the baseball establishment. It's not about baseball. It's not a baseball movie. No, it's about how traditional thinking is always stubborn and way too slow to change.
Yeah.
There's crusty old guys that are killing companies right now.
Yeah.
That's the truth of the matter, Dune, and you and I know it. People watching know this. Crusty old guys, the 65-year-old CEO who still needs the 22-year-old secretary to print out his emails.
Yeah.
Those guys are killing companies because of what we talked about earlier, the need for digital fluency in those areas of fulfillment, delivery, operations, and marketing. So there's a great need now to actually reinvent. It doesn't matter whether it's your business model or your brand.
Yeah, which reminds me of a quote that goes something like, the good is the enemy of the great. Now, those companies who have a lot of money and a lot of history and a lot of background, a lot of past successes, they have it good. But that often prevents them from making some hard decisions based on the future. One of the reasons that companies sort of disappear is they hold too tightly onto past successes, right? And until it's just too late anymore to turn that ship, right?
Yeah, there's a friend of mine, Jeff Colvin. He's the senior editor at large at Fortune magazine, and we were just talking last week, and he challenges CEOs and executive leaders to stop, put an end to, stop protecting yesterday because it's getting in the way of the future.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think these are the exciting times we're in, and those who are going to embrace it and run with it, they're going to do okay, dude.
Yeah.
They're going to do really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on that note,
yeah, I do. I really appreciate all the time we spent here today, and just the invitation. I was really delighted when it came in.
Yeah, well, wonderful. Thank you so much, Gair, for sharing all of your stories and insights with us, and lots of fun videos as well. And as we wrap this up here, if I was to say, Gair, take us out in whatever manner you like to, and take as much time as you like, take as little time as you like. I'm a willing passenger in your driving, my friend. So take us to roundabouts if you like, take us on a straightaway if you like, take us out.
Well, I would challenge anyone to just really think through what I'm about to say, which is, why do so many cling to the present and worship the past while demonizing the future? The future is where we're all going to be. And so what I've been so blessed to discover through Big Little Legends is that anyone, regardless industry, product, service category, can make a decision to write their own history, to reject ordinary, and be legendary.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, kind sir, Gair Maxwell. Friends, you've been listening to a wonderful friend, Gair Maxwell from I'm going to say the Toronto area because I don't know which city. Yeah, you in Toronto?
Actually, in a suburb called London, Ontario. Although here
Wonderful.
in London, we think Toronto's the suburb.
There you go. You're in London, Ontario. And again, thank you so much for your time and insights and all of those wonderful things. So to our viewers out there, take good care of yourself, folks. Take good care of one another. Till we meet again, have a wonderful day. Thanks.